Hey guys, Grant Hubbard here with another fabulous gutter growth podcast for you today. I'm sitting down with Rob Smith, and we're going to dive into a topic that's crucial for every seamless gutter business owner out there, and that is labor cost. Whether you're just starting out, right, or you're scaling up, labor is often one of the biggest expenses we face. And if it's not managed intentionally, or having someone give you some advice that's been through it before, it can make or break your margins. We're going to talk all about that today. Thanks for joining me, Robert Smith. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I feel like it's been years since we've been on a podcast.
The last time we did something really cool was just like a week and a half or two ago, where we were making eggs, and I don't think we've released that yet, but that's coming too.
Those eggs are good though.
That was a good time.
Really good.
So what we're speaking about, guys, is we did an Orlando live. It was actually in Kissimmee, Florida. We got a really big place. We had Rob out. We had Alurex. We had Drip Jobs. I can't remember the final count, but I want to say it was like 42, 43 people.
Say it's somewhere around there. I know that it was really crowded on the bottom of that house for a while.
I found the biggest house I could too.
I know, dude. There was 13, 15 bedrooms, something like that. 20 bedrooms. I can't even remember.
It was 18 bedrooms and like 13 or 15 bathrooms. We had a good time. I'm excited for the next time we do it. And I think when we do it, as well as come join us at the Gutter Summit, guys, because we're going to be talking all things labor cost, production, material cost, how to pay your sales guy, all of that stuff. But today we want to really dive into, there's a bunch of different ways you can pay your guys and gals. There's a bunch of different ways you can pay your salesmen, Rob. Mm-hmm. There's different ways you can pay your general managers, your directors, your floor shop guys. And today we really want to hone in, obviously, on the best way that we've found to pay your installers so that it's fair for the company as well as the employee, and they can find themselves hopefully achieving a tenure or something with the company, because ideally not losing employees is a whole nother side of the labor cost, especially once you built in the cost of retention, but separate conversation. So Rob, I just wanted to start out and kind of ask you, in your experience, what should labor cost percentages look like, here in a healthy seamless gutter business?
In a healthy seamless gutter business, it really depends on what kind of employees you have and what your business model is. If you're going to do hourly plus incentive bonus, you got to think about things like workman's comp insurance. They're going to be covered under your general liability, under your auto. Everything's going to be more expensive. So that percentage is definitely going to be lower. You're looking at 18, max 22%. Mm-hmm. And then, if you're running subs or commission-based installers, you're looking anywhere between 25 to 30%, which really depends on what your model is, what tools and equipment you let them use of yours versus what they're using of theirs. And
lost you a little bit there at the end, but I think we got the gist of that. So you can pay your subs a little bit more, and you might pay your employees a little bit less, and that's to keep the sub. And what's really important, I found, in when you're using subs, is to make sure you ideally want to be using the same subs for several years, because you can get into a real issue using a sub company for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, right? And they knock out just a tremendous amount of work for you, but then it rains, and then all those callbacks come in, and maybe they're too busy or they're somewhere else making money and they can't honor that. Again, another conversation there, but typically you can pay your subs a little bit higher.
Absolutely.
Where do you see owners and managers go wrong when it comes to managing labor? I know we both have a great amount of experience in this, but I'll let you kind of start off.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, that's fine. Where do you see owners and managers typically going wrong when it comes down to managing labor, like, giving too many raises or not paying high enough, just to give you some examples of, some of the scenarios that could happen?
So one is not having a good training program. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of guys go off a feeling. I feel like this guy's been working really hard. I'm going to go ahead and bump him up, you
Yep.
know, or on subs, you know, I made a really good connection with this guy the first time around. He talks right. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on this giant job and test him out before I properly vet him and
Yeah.
make sure that he's going to serve my company well and serve my customers well.
Absolutely. And although I know you can't necessarily dictate what a sub does and the shirts, you know, all that type of stuff, you can ask them to come in to your business and certify them as someone that, you know, you want subbing for your company. And what that all entails is, again, a completely different conversation. But you are able to do that with your subs, whether it be coming in and asking them to show you their quality right there in the shop or something like that. I don't know that it would be out of bounds to have any type of like testing that's going to help you actually qualify, right? Something like that. And we have some of that stuff built into the vault as well, right? To help.
Oh, 100%.
So actually I have something amazing I'm releasing this weekend.
Oh yeah. What's that?
You know, my executives. So they're working hard on this first. It's just the level 1 training booklet that I'm coming out with. So it's the big one, the one we've been waiting on. I think that's going to tie into this, but there'll have to be some coaching behind it, right? Because you hit the nail on the head with fairly often, and this is obviously in smaller business, maybe not businesses that have scaled up, because typically and hopefully once you've scaled, you have some processes in place. And I think people that we know that have scaled in our industry, we know most of them, they have some processes, and they'll admit that those can grow. And just like the processes in anything can and should always grow.
It's a living organism. It's going to grow and change.
Is that emotional raise, right? So like you said, I think you've been doing really well. You're making my heart happy. It's been a good spring. I think you're due for some more money. And that typically comes with installers. I'm an installer first. Don't hate me for this, but some type of like manipulation towards the boss that I'm not making enough money. And so those are generally references, right?
Yep.
Oh man, I'm still broke from Christmas. I don't know how people make it. And I've only got one kid. Imagine if I have two. Oh, that's right. We're pregnant. Just all that type of stuff I've heard, right? Man, it must be nice to have a nice truck. I'm thinking about getting into one, but I don't know how anyone would ever afford that on what I make. I've just heard all of these things. And if it's a good employee, and a lot of people have good employees, a lot of people really do. We talk about people losing a lot of employees, but again, I'd like managers and owners to take a little bit more responsibility why they can't keep help. You know what I mean? Some of that is systems and process. Some of it is just you're not the right person to be in charge of the culture at the business. You might be a fabulous owner. You might just not be the right person. You need to be like a type of coach. We talk about this often. It's like you can't put some really dry guy out in front of to coach a baseball team. You got to add that a boy and you got to
have energy,
all that stuff. You got to cheer people on. If you're not a cheerleader. But back to the topic is people will throw out stuff. Rob, do you deal with that? Those comments and things like that, and that's how people want to get raises.
Hi, my name is Archie, and I don't want this, or this to cause unexpected damage to your home.
Prevent unexpected and costly damage from clogged gutters. Protect your home with One Gutter Guard, the trusted solution for gutter protection. Call us today to schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate.
That's how some people want to get jobs. Look, I get it. Sometimes we feel like we're not making enough money because we don't have enough self-accountability and we're not managing our own finances properly.
Yep.
That's where typically I'll go through and I'll ask my guys, hey, would you like to get together and, go over your budget? I go, what do you mean my budget? I just spent too much last month. Well, what was your budget? Well, I don't know. I don't have one. So that's where you as a leader, not as their boss, but as their leader, need to sit them down and make sure that they set themselves up for success.
I think what's really unique in small business versus, corporate America per se out there where they have, thousands of employees or even hundreds and hundreds of employees. is the truth and not becoming a number. And I think the advantage to small business and, let's say groups of 100 or less, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but 100 or less, or maybe the typical seamless rain gutter business, which is most likely 20 or less, absolutely qualifying as a small business. That's the best part, is that you can really get to know your employees. And, the whole framework of what I talk about in gutter growth that's built into every document is a segue to the next part of growth versus this dry, redundant, okay, level 1, do this. That's the end of that. Have a nice day. It's no, be prepared through all of level 1 to get ready for level 1.5 and then level 2. You know what I mean? However that is. And that's because you have a lot of time with your employees, especially if you're doing the meetings properly and you're inciting growth properly, and there's constant training, and there's rarely, but there is reprimand for mistakes that are built into systems and processes. You're going to have a lot of one-on-one time, the manager or the owner, with your employees. It's a great time, again, to get to know them personally, to show up to their son's baseball game, to know when their wife's pregnant, or when they're wanting to buy that next house or purchase that needed vehicle, or whatever it may be, right? And so you could, if you are good with your finances, why not let that trickle down to your employees? And your employees will be grateful that during their 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years with you, not only did they know when they were going to get raises, but you helped them become a better man or woman, right?
Yep.
And maybe they helped you. It goes both ways, right? We all learn from each other. So scaling challenges, how does labor cost management change when business is scaling from a small team to a larger team? And at that time, when everybody's like, we're growing, it's time to overpay everyone now.
No, it's not. It's time to double down, stick to your guns, and, pay attention to the numbers closer than ever, because you have to look at the logistics of that other team, right? So then you also have to decide, well, is this going to be an in-house team that's going to be with me for the rest of the year and for the rest of my company? Or are these going to be some hired guns that I bring in for the season to help me, stay ahead of my workflow? Because there are lasting charges, there are lasting bills that come with having a new in-house crew.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got car insurance, you've got higher everything insurance. Right now, you might have a new car payment, new machine, new equipment. I mean, you're spending, 60, 70 grand on a new crew versus maybe bringing in a good buddy that you've met through gutter growth or just your own networking. Vet them, make sure that they're going to represent you well and stack up work for the season.
Let's talk about that point really quickly.
Yep.
What I found fascinating, you're doing it, I'm doing it, Eric is doing it, a couple others around the country are doing it. And gutter growth's only 2 years old, right? And we've taken things, I feel, you don't see a tremendous amount of advertising. You don't see any advertising, really. I mean, we share our stuff, but you don't see all these ads everywhere to join. We really like the more organic approach of someone feeling like, I'm ready to grow. Let me go out and look and see what's available and then find something consistent. Now, obviously, we've built up this roster of coaches that's I'm always, like I just said in the coaches meeting last week, I'm just so honored. You start to feel like, man, I think we're finally making it, because I'm at a table of people that all have the same purpose and intent. And it feels like a good quality business. People aren't leaving. People are staying. Coaches are happy. Yeah. You guys are giving a lot. But to your point of building up the roster, hiring guns is what you said.
Yep.
I love that in the group now. Alejandro, for example, obviously I use him. He's subbing for others right now so that we don't have to purchase truck and a machine because we don't have any money that per se and the way we're taking this endeavor.
Yeah.
He's also getting work from another gutter growth member that's in another city and state, but just happens to have a bunch of leads for him in Miami.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
But getting something from another gutter growth member. And then now Eric's wanting to come from North Carolina down to Sarasota area, and he's finding some, and then you're doing that with other people. And so it's just
100%.
really great to see this community utilize each other, but it's kind of because they're already vetted. Like you're seeing them in meetings or you're watching them grow. You know, they have systems in place.
Well, not only that, but you know that you're also part of a community that's going to hold them accountable as well. I mean, there's no way I'm going to take on a job for one of my brothers and then show up, you know, halfway and be like, that's good enough. It'll be okay. No, no, you know, but it's good to be held accountable.
Let's talk really quick. Let's get into numbers. Some guys are going to want to know numbers. You said 18 to 20% or 18 to 20. We'll just call it 18 to 23%.
Yep. 18 to 23, you know,
22,
because
23. Now,
exactly.
Let's say you're in, you're going to throw out a random city that I don't think anybody's in. So no one's like, hey, that's not the truth. Let's say you're in Las Vegas. We don't have a member there. And he's paying 25% to his truck, Robert.
Okay.
And this guy's name is Chris. And he's an employee. He works at this gutter company in Las Vegas. He's making 25%. And in Las Vegas, they sell gutters for $5.50 a foot. 6-inch gutter, it's $5.50 a foot all day. With the downs, blah, blah. So then he's like, hey, I'm thinking about moving, and he's about to come over to your company, Roadworks in Orlando. He's going to make the move. And, you know, you're doing some onboarding. You're getting to know him a little bit. You guys have been talking for a month, and now he's packing up. He's moving. He's getting ready to come work for you. And you've let him know that we'll truly see if you say you are and who you are and you show up, right? Well, that first day we'll do a cash run or whatever. See what you're worth. And if you are, we will have a negotiation that day. We'll get a contract. We'll get it to you. And we'd love to employ you. Right. And he comes and, you know, he was making 25% over there. Now he comes and he's like, all right, Rob, I need that 25%. And you're like, well, let me break something down to you. You're making 25% of $5 over there. We pay 20%, but of $10 over here. And you know, we don't need to go through the math. But I see that very often. Yeah, I know. So let's do it. Let's talk.
All right. So
what that could be.
All right. 25% of a company in Las Vegas, right? Charging $5.50 a foot. Yep. Installer gets $1.37 a foot. Okay. So if I'm charging $10 a foot and I'm paying 20%, that means that they're making $2 a foot.
Yep.
Right. Which means that I'm actually going to be paying them, if I keep everything equally, I'm going to be paying them more, 75, 80% more than what they were making.
Yes.
So because already, even just at $2 a foot, I mean, that's 68% more than what they were making before.
Now, what if he says, oh, well, the cost of living over here is all, like, that's all on you, brother. First off, we're going to pay you more, even though. So it's really, we talk about it all the time. Know your numbers and know them a couple different ways. Don't just, oh, I pay $10 a foot, Rob, or I pay $10 an hour, this, that, the third. That's what works for me. But then all of a sudden a rock star comes into your city and you know he's going to help you scale up a little bit. Yep. He's going to be a leader, but you don't know how to pay him. You're like totally lost. And he's like, you were paying 10 an hour and now you're like, I think a guy like you, man, I could probably pay 18 or 20. And he's like, huh? Nah, bro, I need 60 an hour. And you're like, that could never happen. But then all of a sudden you work with somebody, you find out, you start paying him percentage pay and you do the math. And all of a sudden this guy's making between 40 and $80 an hour. And you didn't know that was even ever possible because you were looking at it the wrong way. Right. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. You kidding me? I got a screen crew that's going out today that's going to make $65 an hour.
Right.
You know,
I remember.
So it's trades can be very profitable.
I remember when I first moved from, not the first, but this last time when I moved from Florida to Texas to kind of start that Brothers Gutters in San Antonio. And the gentleman that owns that place, Nathan, he was following me on Instagram and it worked well for both of us. But I remember some of those initial conversations and I may be off by a couple bucks, but I think he was like, yeah, you know, I typically pay like 15 an hour and he had owned his own business prior. And that was decent money for where he was. He definitely, he has no problem paying. I'll say he has no problem paying his bills or paying people really good. So this is not an indicator of that. It was just I was a big city guy with a lot of bills coming, and there was like, there's no way I can. He's, well, what are you thinking? And I'm like, this is towards the end of my career, like installing in Florida, extremely huge numbers with Corey and Alejandro. We've talked about that. So it's like, yeah, man, I need like $60, $80 an hour if we're going to do the hour thing. And he's kind of laughable, right? Like there's no way. Not saying you're not worth it, but I can't imagine that. Long story short, not that he wasn't aware because he owned a lot of other companies, but once I broke down to him that we like making percentage, the professionals do, he quickly gravitated towards that, created his own little system of what worked for him, being that he was in a franchise and had different overhead than others. And we quickly came to an agreement. And, you know, at the end of that first year, when you really broke it down, now I always go above and beyond, et cetera, but I'm willing to bet I was making $50 to $100 an hour. And I know for a fact the second year when we really nailed it, I made well over $100,000 working for him as an installer. And, you know, there's a lot of drive time in that area, but it paid very well if we were looking at the hourly. So for you owners that are, you know, listening to this and you're a smaller one truck business and you pay your guys that 14 an hour, that 18 an hour, that 23 an hour, it's all love. Like you probably know your market better than just me or Robert sitting over here going, you should be doing this.
No, 100%.
But if you don't know your numbers and you wanted to know your numbers, because that hourly can still break out to a percentage, right? You can still always do the math back to that.
I hope you do.
You have,
for your P&L sake, I hope.
People
I hope you do.
Them, I'm like, what percentage? You know, we interview people to come into Gutter Growth. We take most, but we haven't always taken all. And it's like, hey, what is your material cost? You're like, man, I really don't know, dude. I just pay the bill. And then you're like, okay,
it depends.
What is your labor? You know, what are your labor costs right now? And it's like, yeah, well, I pay $12 an hour, my guys.
Yeah. How do you know you're profitable? I got money in the bank.
And, you know, typically these are owner operators, right? And we talk about that. They put in a tremendous amount of work doing payroll, doing the sales. They're still installing on the truck. They're working a bazillion hours and they're making pretty good money. Let's be real. Yeah. Everybody always says, how does the truck in a truck charging $575 a foot make any money? I'm like,
because the lead guy's the chief everything officer. He does it all.
He puts in so much work that when he's making $160K a year, he's pulling. Now we try to teach these people, they're pulling all the equity out of their company, right? Not always, but typically, blah, blah. So I definitely recommend a percentage pay, not just because it's very easy to track, but it's locked in. What do I mean by that? And there's a conversation that we continue to have around percentage pay, Rob, and I'll just notate it really quickly, that you should still be paying them by the hour, payroll-wise. You should still be making sure that they make overtime, and we'll do another episode exactly on that. So when
basement flooding, roof leaks, mold.
No. Have to clean the gutters.
Go back to sleep, honey. We installed one gutter guard.
Prevent unexpected and costly damage from clogged gutters. Protect your home with one gutter guard, the trusted solution for gutter protection. Call us today to schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate.
When you're paying percentage, their paycheck doesn't say 0.20% of Bob. And here's the thing. They still should be clocking in and out. You still should be tracking their hours, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I like somewhere around 20%, you know, give or take. But I like, regardless of how experienced you are, like if I went over to your company and I have all this experience, I would very quickly, and as an example, Brothers Gutters in San Antonio for Nathan, and he will absolutely co-sign this. They had some handbooks. They didn't have a lot of SOPs over there, but they had handbooks for installation so that you could graduate. And I've spoke on that, and I really like how they did that. So even though I knew all that stuff, I couldn't train it. So I quickly dove into all of it. I had to read these 13 books like this in the first year, some nice solid books. I read them all as quickly as possible so that I could show him, hey, I need top pay because I've done all the courses. And then also I want to be able to train everyone else on those courses. And I can't train them on those courses just because I know how to put screws in wood and do hand cut corners and 3x4 smooths, all that stuff. That means I'm a solo employee. I'm not an employee that can help train others. And I wanted to be a leaders, and you know what building leaders means to me. It's the foundation of the scaling. What's your thoughts on that when a new employee comes over and he has a lot of experience? Do you make him work back up through the ranks? Is there some middle ground? Are you lazy with it? Because I've been all of the above.
No. So, all right. So we just hired a new guy last week. Whenever you come in and interview for us, I followed a lot of your principles as far as, how they show up, what time they show up, the texting 10 minutes before they get
There's
here.
There's some great stuff right there, isn't it?
Right. And it is, out of 6 people that I interviewed, there was one person that did it right. Sit down and I talk to them. And then we actually have, for the screening side, we have a test wall here.
Okay.
So the end of the interview is actually the test wall. And me and somebody else will stand behind them, chit-chatting, kind of over their shoulder, putting the pressure on them.
Yep.
And have them screen the panel. Well, this kid did absolutely amazing. So that's your first step.
Okay.
Then you got to see how you mesh with everybody else and make sure that you're consistent showing up. So I put them with one of my experienced guys that I trust to look out for him, for one, and to monitor his work.
Okay.
Too. Right. And then that first week, that's your trial week. That's see how, if you can keep it up, if you are as good in the field as you say that you are. Now, it's known that that's a trial period. However, we do go ahead and hire them on because, again, they have to be covered by all of our insurances in order to be on my job site. I'm not going to have anybody coming back on any of my homeowners.
Yeah.
So this new guy, he showed up early every day. They finished one of the largest paydays in one day that we've had in probably a year.
Amazing.
Huge. Now they worked from sun up to sundown, but I think those guys made almost $1,000 a piece that day.
Yep.
And they're in the trades, right? So it's amazing. But you have to follow rigidly your process. You have to create a good process to weed out the bad people.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself.
That's a big part of it, is trusting yourself, right? And then it's like, not blindly. It's like, even in the coaching thing, some days I get asked questions. I know you do. I'm sure all the coaches do.
Oh, yeah.
I sometimes I take it real serious. The podcasts are fun, but anybody that's been on the phone with me, it could last 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. I will give my time. And my precursor is always like, let's not rush through this. This is your life. This is your business. I don't know your city, state, employee's life, your office setup, any of those things that are involved in your business. Let's take everything that's said with a grain of salt. And then if we want to grow into this, let's slow down. Let's start taking notes. Let's really work on what your intent is. And it always has to start with your vision. I can't take a phone call like, hey, I need to change my labor rates and then my material percentage. And then I want to, people will dive all over. And it's like,
no,
whoa. Let's not get you thinking of way too much. And then we get off the phone and you kind of jack everything up because so-and-so said you should be doing it this way. Right. That's not good. So that being said, it's like, you have to trust yourself. And sometimes I have to sit down and tell myself like, hey man, you are experienced. I'll be on a call with someone. I was on a call last weekend that was just like this. And I was like, they were asking me some stuff and I was like, man, you're kind of in a bind. I could take the easy way out and be like, hey man, you need to figure some stuff out. Give me a call back when you get that stuff in order. And instead I was like, Grant, you're the right person. You are. You've walked this walk. You've been an employee during this type of scenario. This is going to take a couple hours. Let's dive into this call and let's get serious. Let's get helpful. And, that's what it's really all about for me. That's why I'm being blessed the way that I am, is the giving. But it's like, you have to trust yourself in your processes. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what we talked about and it looks like you're using, which is, I like to call it making them work before they're hired, which is some of those pre-interview little CIA tactics?
Absolutely. So if you look at most any of our ads that we put up for for jobs, you don't actually respond to the ad itself. You never do. I mean, if you read the whole thing at the bottom, we give you an email address to send your resume to.
Yep.
Once you send your resume in, then you get a message back. Hey, thank you very much for applying. We'll review your resume. If we like what their resume looks like, we send them back another message. Hey, be here at 7:53 tomorrow morning. Give me a text message whenever you're 10 minutes out. Make sure to have your portfolio and your resume with you ready to go.
Yep.
And then you wait. And, I had a guy the other day that, God bless him, he was 40 minutes early. I was not in the office. And then he wanted to be seen right away. I'm like, hold on, dude. I told you 8:55.
Yeah.
We're going to go at 8:55.
Yeah.
Right. And so, especially if you use digital CRMs, you're going to be having to read and understand somebody else's words
Yes.
to execute some of these jobs. If you can't read and understand what I'm telling you to do, how can I trust you to go out and take my $100,000 rig to a house and go and play with my reputation? Because you may miss something on the paperwork. You may misunderstand or misread something, and maybe you do the neighbor's house instead of the house that we're supposed to.
Yep.
That's actually happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Not here, but thank
right.
God. But I've heard of, stuff like, oh, I misread the address. I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So we gutted the wrong house.
I think when you're doing those things, and that's why I talk about them, it's really pertinent, to give them that specific time. Again, I like my interviews in the morning. I love telling them 7:53. That's kind of my thing. I like telling them the 10-minute call out. I put a couple other things in there as well. And these are just very, very small trials. That's what I'm thinking about once you're actually sitting in my office. Like, man, you were so close and you seem like such a good applicant, but you didn't do any of the little things I asked. Because I can get lots of people to screw wood. Are they going to ask for the payment at the end? Are they not going to text their baby mama and the rig while they're driving? Are they going to seatbelt up? Are they going to remember to strap down the full-size coil that's on the cradle the proper way? Are they going to remember all the little things? And we talk about that, all those little things being so much better than a great looking, good smelling 20-year veteran walking in 15 minutes early or late and not calling you or doing any of the small things that were asked. And you're absolutely right. Because of the abundant usage of CRM now, there's a lot of little notes to read. And I need you cluing in on the small things, like all the small things, like that second walk around cleanup for the house when you tore off the spike and furl 400 linear foot gutter job. And you've only found a handful of those spikes, and the guys told you everything's cleaned up, and you as a leader, you go back around one more time and you find a whole nother handful of stuff in the bushes in the yard. And it's the small attention to detail. I think that's going to get the employee and the employer so much farther than just man, I think you're the right guy, handshake. We both like boats. We both like horses. You're going to work out great over here, Yeah,
no, I don't go off feelings. You can't trust your feeling whenever it goes to that. I mean, you really have to look at the data and how they're following through with everything. I mean, I want to believe that most of us are kind-hearted and we want to give somebody a chance. And it is really hard to be objective and go, well, look, you didn't, granted, you did your trade amazingly. You were super quick, very clean, but you just don't know how to listen and follow instruction. And for that reason, I can't hire you. It's because you have to look at the future. What's going to happen there? What happens whenever you have something that's very complicated that they really have to pay close attention to? They don't have the ability.
Great note. Great. So you guys listening, maybe use some of those tactics. They're just little things. They're little tests prior to the interview. And if people can nail those, it still doesn't mean that they're the best fit for the company, but have things that align with your morals, your vision, your company characteristics. Put some of those little precursors in. It might be like, hey, could you just even bring me a soda or something? See if they just follow through with that. Like, I don't know. I like weird times and the pre-call. And then I have a couple other little things. We call them little CIA tasks,
Oh,
See
yeah.
if
And always make them earn their way. Always, no matter how badass they are, make them earn their way.
a part
In
of
the
why
end-
we're having, a part of why we're having this discussion, right, is because some people will come in, they'll be a great fit, and you'll max them out on pay too quickly, right? So if you have systems, processes, SOPs for training, whether that's one page, it could just be, here's what you're doing the first month, here's what I expect you to know the second month, here's what I expect you to know the third month, and you could throw your hands in and go, my guy is completely, I mean, that's completely up to you how you run your business. But if you're interested in gutter growth, we obviously have a vault, and we have a lot of stuff built in there from the pros of the specifics. Reach out. You can talk to Rob, myself, Tim, Tina, Corey, Chris, Tom, and there's a variety of members across the United States that you can speak with. And I think some of them are using these processes really well. But you don't want to max out your employee right away on percentage, because they're going to want more 6 months, a year, and rightfully so. With inflation, your business should be, especially now that inflation's hitting, your business should be watching that and kind of raising prices if you have to, so that your employees can live, and the better off your employees are living, the better off your business is probably going to be living. So have a process in place where when it's time, or even better yet, they know when it's time to get a raise, and that's holding them accountable to different lists. If someone listening today realizes their labor cost is way too high, Rob, what's the first step you think they should take? If they're like, oh my gosh, I realize now I'm paying 26% to two guys that been working for me, they're 20 years old, never done gutters before. That's where my money's going.
So, well, I mean, I'd look at why you're paying 26%. Is that just your pay scale out the gate? And if so, why? And how much money are they bringing you on the back end? Because I'm not saying 26% can't work.
Right.
But they're going to have to pull some double duty or something. Maybe they also double as salesmen in the field or something like that. But if you just wanted to strictly reduce it, I mean, that's a hard conversation. You have to sit down with the guys and show them the numbers and show them, look, you make the lion's share of the money here, and we're never going to grow if you keep doing this. Yeah. Now, either we can make these adjustments and you can grow with me and I can get you in a management position, or you may have to think about bringing in new people.
I want to use that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's neither of those are easy decisions, but at the end of the day, as much as we care about people, it's the business that's going to outlast everybody and cares for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can't just give all the money away. A great example, when I went to Austin's location, Brothers Gutters, Kip has a really huge heart. He was paying really well, but he wasn't really he wasn't at all in the seamless gutter business. And he was overpaying, plain and simple. He was overpaying his guys. So I come in, he was running a couple trucks. Those guys know who they are. We still talk to this day, all of them except for one. But I want to indicate one person who is Hubbard, who is now, I don't know his official title, but I'll just say probably field supervisor. Okay. But when I came into Austin, him and a couple other guys, essentially, you pay 20% or something to the truck, right? Where these percentages, we're not talking about 23% to one person. It is to the truck. And then it's split up based off of experience. But Kip was being extremely generous, and essentially he was paying probably 3, 4, 5% more to each person than he needed to be. And I had that conversation quickly, and he was like, I think in the back of his head, these weren't his words. He was like, all right, let's see what kind of new manager you are. You could hit this nail on the head, Grant. Let's see how your culture works. And I did. I had to have that conversation immediately. And Hubbard knows that. And we came in and I said, there's all these systems and processes. And because of some of these newer franchises in the busier areas, Kip got to work immediately. And he's built a really good business behind that. That's a great booming economy in Austin. And it was kind of like, let me make sure these guys keep showing up. But I said to the boys, you haven't even read all these 13 books. You haven't done all of this stuff that's in LMS. And you're at your max pay. And the way that I work is I like to do discipline and reward. A lot of reward. There's nothing left I'll ever be able to reward you. You will never make another dime here. You're already, and quite frankly, you're a newer guy in the industry. You're making money of someone that's been doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. We had the tough conversations. They completely understood. And guess what? They came down. And I remember Hubert came down with good humility. And here it is, the story. 2.5 years later, he's running that business. And I don't think he's really on the truck. And that's awesome for him.
Nice.
That's the dream of an installer. You're on the ladder and you keep thinking about how you don't want to be on the ladder anymore. And because he took the step of faith to let me bring him down in percentage. Now, mind you, he worked himself right back up. I gave him an amazing path right back to success. And that's how me and him were able to build our camaraderie at work, where I knew I could lean on him and trust on him for any of the jobs, as well as building other leaders, right? And he was able to excel at that quickly. So don't feel like you can't have that conversation with your employees. And I'm sorry, Hubert, I know you watch these. That was a compliment to you. No form of disrespect. He did really well with it. And now you're running a really big operation. I'm really proud of you, man. Great job with that. And it all started from me and you sitting at that table in the conference room. I know you remember the day you weren't happy about it. And you said, okay, he said, I used to do concrete. Now I'm doing gutters. I'm just going to dig in and get the work done, boss.
Yeah.
And I'll get right back to that percentage. And I said, I know you will. And we got back there fairly quickly. And now he's obviously able to surpass that and not have to work so hard out in the sun. And
that sounds like an amazing.
It all started with that conversation, right? And it was hard for both of us. Rob, why don't you leave us with some final advice? What's one simple principle about labor cost you wish every business owner would live by? And maybe it's just the way you live by it, but what's your thoughts on that?
One thing that I live by.
Well, when it comes to labor cost, what's one simple principle about labor costs you wish every owner would live by?
Wish that most people would know that, you need to pay more than others, but expect more than others and charge more than others.
There we go, baby. Exactly.
As long as everything is more,
highest paying. It's okay to be the highest paying.
Heck yeah.
But have the highest expectations too.
That's right. And the highest prices, because those expensive guys are going to cost, but make sure that they're worth it. You put them through their trials, you pay them more, they're going to stick around, and they're going to do more than you could ever imagine for you.
Yeah. You pay more for certain paintings than others, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the same.
Not me. My paintings are free.
It's the same. Not mine. David, I'll tell you my painter. He's done. I think you've probably seen some of my art. He's done the majority of the art in his house. No, he gives me a good deal. I'm joking. Hey guys, today we were talking labor cost. If you have any questions about how you're paying, and if you could do it a little better, me or Robert might not have all the answers for you, but I know that we'll both guide you to the same place, which is systems and processes, knowing your numbers. And I think everybody at the company will be a lot happier. I think you would agree.
Absolutely.
Hey, I hope you have a fabulous day. I'm looking forward to the next time. Let's shoot our shot. What do we want to get into on the next one? Let's segue off of this. Maybe we can break down a little bit more of what the processes look like so that you can earn your way up into those percentages or something.
Most definitely. That sounds good. What it really takes to get from, newbie green pea to experienced master installer.
Well as Rob, a lot of conversation lately, again, even though we've answered this question a lot, and it's fine because not everybody's, online all the time, is people not fully being aware of how to add that third or fourth guy to the truck. Like if they're paying 20% to the truck and Grant's making 10 and Rob's making 10, and now I add 2 more guys to a big job, like where does that cost come from? Well, I'll just give you an idea. It comes out of Grant and Rob. The thing about percentage is it stays there. It doesn't go up and down. We add more people. That means people are doing less work.
Yep.
The system should be smoother. So we can dive into that, as well as another big question coming up around percentage costs, as a lot of people are moving over to it, is how to do it on copper. Hey, I sold this $86,000 copper job. The materials were $35K, but I'm paying percentage. We'll talk to you about that too. So look for me and Robert coming back at you live and often. Be well,
That's
brother.
right. I'll be seeing you next Tuesday, bright and early.
Later. Bye.
Later.